Hello and welcome back to the Jeff Go to Go podcast, a production put together by the Standard Banner and its SB Media Project. I'm Dennis Barker Jr., sports editor at the Standard Banner, and pleased to be joined again by the head girls basketball coach at Jefferson County High School, Bo Lewis, as well as the head coach of the boys basketball team at JCHS, Andy Hill. We're here to keep you up to date and discuss all things Jefferson County athletics as the Standard Banner continues to find new ways to be your trusted local news source since 1928. And of course, you can still subscribe to the Banner for less than $40 for a yearly subscription, which comes out to less than $1 per edition of the paper. On top of that, you'll have full access to our website where we post all of our content. Some content is posted as it happens, so if waiting to get the hard copy of the paper is not your thing, you can check in regularly to get immediate coverage of the stories you're looking for. To set up a subscription, call our office at 865-475-2081 during normal business hours, which are 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Thursday. The Standard Banner is closed Friday through Sunday. Again, that number is 865-475-2081. With that, let's get into this second episode of the Jeff Go to Go podcast. Bo, Andy, how have y'all been?
Doing great, man. Good to be back for the second episode. Been looking forward to it. So just been busy with school and a little conditioning going on here and there.
Conditioning in the heat wave?
Well, that's pushed us to the inside for the most part, but yes. Been trying to get as much in as we can a couple of days a week is all we're doing right now.
It's been awful outside. Andy, what have you been up to since the last episode?
Pretty much the same. Started to get back in the swing of school. As far as our basketball program, kids have done some community service work, and like Coach Lewis said, preseason conditioning, we've been in the weight room. We'll start our three-player stuff after Labor Day.
Of course, it's been hot out, but, everybody's still been after it. We're a couple of weeks into fall sports, just kind of keeping up with things. What have been your all's general overall observations of how Patriot Athletics have been doing so far?
Strong start. Exciting atmosphere, especially last Friday. Massive student section. As big as I've seen, just as far as sheer numbers. It seemed like it went up pretty high in the bleachers as high as you could see. So I think we've gotten off to a strong start. Good bounce back last Friday in football. Our other sports have gotten off to a pretty strong start as well. So we're rolling here in the Valley.
That's one thing I was going to mention was the student section, how impressive that was to just look up there and 15 to 20 rows deep of, I think it was a whiteout night, and Maddox Rogers and Oboe, they had them fired up over there in the student section all night long.
Maddox put a bear through a table during the pep rally?
Dr. Cagle started.
Okay.
They went on a bear hunt, and Dr. Cagle, I'm not sure if you have seen the video. I can't believe it hadn't went viral yet. It might. But just coming out of the stands like he did and gave it the old people's elbow there, it was pretty awesome. Then Maddox followed up to pretty much hammer that table.
I'm always good for. I'm one of the guys. If I'm at a wrestling show, I'm one of the guys chanting, "I want tables." So, always pleased to see something go through a table.
Something we had last week as well that I think not just athletically but for our entire student body, we had a guest speaker that was provided through our relationship with BSN and Herf Jones, and this guy's name is Kevin Atlas. One-arm basketball player from California. He's kind of a world-renowned speaker, and he did a tremendous job of kind of reminding us all why we're here, and giving us a perspective to, life is what lens you choose to look through, and I think it was a really good message to our student body, and one of the few times that a speaker has shown, and I've seen a difference in kind of the way people have interacted since he's been here. So very positive last few days here at the school. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, to build on that, just a lot of culture building. I felt like that Thursday and Friday, and Mr. Rogers kind of made note of that too. You know, you try to have some things that are memorable for the students, and those 2 days were certainly already a great start to this school year that are hopefully they can take with them for a long time, just some good memories from those 2 days that could be impactful for a lifetime, especially like Coach Hill said that Thursday with Kevin here. That was a fantastic day.
Well, it certainly seemed that it carried over it carried over into Friday night. I mean, you guys already talked about the atmosphere and how great that it was, but then the football team absolutely executed on Friday night. Big win over Sevier County. If you missed it, of course, Patriots rushed for over 400 yards. I mean, just absolutely obliterated them on the ground. I don't know that I've seen a more impressive rushing performance. Certainly not in my time here, but I don't know in my time covering high school athletics.
Well, it was impressive. I mean, Coach Riley has talked about his running backs just these last couple of weeks a lot. Just small talk that I've had with him on lunch duty or whatever during the day. But he really loves those backs. And I tell you, I was really impressed with Omari on Friday night. I think that might have been the best game that I'd seen him play in, going on the second year that I've been back here. So I was glad to see him finally get out there and just kick it out of that third gear, pick it up a notch, and man, what a great time to do it at home against Sevier County.
Definitely seemed like one of the best games that he's had since he's been here. I mean, every single rush ended up going forward, probably averaged about 5 yards a carry at least, over 100 yards rushing. He and Sean Jackson both. That was one that really stood out to me, sophomore. I know Spencer's really excited about him. Darren Cunningham, the running backs coach, really excited about the way that he's come along. And he certainly got to show out on Friday night as well.
I haven't coached Sean in basketball. He's what you want in an athlete. He's extremely coachable, lifts up his teammates, comes around, his positive attitude and his energy is infectious in your locker room. So he's a guy that regardless of the sport that he was going out to play, I think he would make anybody better. And it's not a surprise that he's having the success that he's having early on in his sophomore season. I look for that to just, if he can stay healthy, I look for that just to continue on into the remainder of the football season, into basketball season, and into track. He's a guy that just makes you better.
I mean, what a treat that is to have 4 backs like we have in the backfield. We hadn't even mentioned Dallas just yet. We did in episode 1.
We talked about that in the first episode. And I mean, golly, that's a good problem to have.
Oh man! And you mentioned Coach Cunningham. I poked my head out there and been out there at practice time few days, and just seeing him out there, how fired up he gets, that hat backwards with his wristbands on. He's sweating just as much as the players are, just out there coaching the heck out of them. So I know they're really excited about those fellas in the backfield.
Well, and he grabbed me even just before the season started and said, "When are we doing the story on the best running back room in the state?" And I mean, keep putting on performances like Friday night. I think we'll have quite a few stories on
Absolutely.
them.
I don't think that with the success that our offense did have, I think it can't get lost how good the defense has been both games. Early on in the year, defense has only allowed 1 touchdown on a drive that's crossed the 50.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive. We gave them 1 late there, but all in all, they've been pretty impressive for 2 weeks. That'll need to continue this Friday as they go on the road, first region game at Science Hill. And it's like I talked to some of our coaches about when we played Oak Ridge. Kids that come from those storied programs, and I know that Science Hill probably has a deeper resume in basketball than they do in football, but those schools, Science Hill, Dobbins Bennett, Green, those kind of city schools, only school in the city school system, it's very important there. And those kids expect to win. They don't hope to win. They walk on, and it doesn't matter the sport. They walk on the field. They walk on the court. They expect to win. And that's, for our kids, that's something that they've got to match that mentality or exceed it.
Well, you certainly saw an expectation to win, I think, this past Friday. I mean, got off to a great start. Andy, like you mentioned, the defense on Friday night, I mean, got off to a great start, pushed them 14 yards backward in 3 plays, forced a 3 and out, get a punt, and then offense gets the ball and scores in 2 plays. I don't think that you can get off to a much better start to a football game.
No, certainly not. And like I said, the defense has been stout for 2 weeks. The best thing that a young quarterback can have is a good defense, a good running game, and we were able to accomplish those 2 things on Friday. Hopefully that'll give us some momentum heading into 2 very important weeks. Basically, I mean, the next 2 weeks for us are going to decide heavily on our finish in the region. If you win both of them, you're in the driver's seat. If you split, you're got a great opportunity to host a first-round playoff game, which we have not done since I was a freshman in high school. So this team certainly has the talent and the ability to go do that. Like anything, it comes down to execution. So hopefully they'll have a good week of practice leading up to this Friday at Science Hill and go up there and kind of replicate and build upon some of the things that they were able to do last Friday against Superior County.
Well, and before we move on to those first couple of games, just a little bit of house cleaning from this one. I don't think as a coach you could find many things to be upset about. Spencer Riley's not any coach, though, but still, I think that he did have a point. He talked about how the team came out after the lightning delay, 51-minute delay. So, I mean, you obviously got to reset and everything. They got the ball down on the goal line, get 1 play to score, didn't get it. And, one of the things he said was, quote, "I am disappointed with the way we came back out after the lightning delay. We didn't finish, and if we're in a close ball game, that cost us the game. We can't do that."
I understand what he means by that. I mean, just on the basketball side of it, there's sometimes that you wish you didn't have a halftime. You might be playing great that first half, and then you go in there for those 10 minutes or whatever, and you come back out and you're flat for whatever reason. And so same kind of scenario right there. So I understand what he was saying. As a coach, you're always trying to find ways on make your team better and how we need to build on, something we need to build on, win or lose. And, that's one of those areas that, you just got to stay focused and try to continue to bring that energy.
I mean, it's never enough, Rod.
No.
As a coach, you've dominated the game the entire night, and you want to finish it off. Mm-hmm. And human nature is in that situation, especially with an unexpected break, is to be average or complacent. I mean, they're coming off the field. They're getting to be up close and personal with the crowd. They're telling them they're the best thing. Everything's great, wonderful, and it's human nature to let up. As coaches, you want to see guys just go out there and play like the score is 0-0. Play like that down is as important as any other down in the game. Not that you're up 41-14 with a chance to make it, with a chance to increase your lead. You want to go out there with the mindset of it's 0-0, and you want your players to play present. So I understand where he's coming from. Human nature and our tendency is just not. I mean, it takes a lot of work to get to that point where your kids are just like, we're going to go out here and compete regardless of the score or how much time is left in the game.
Well, of course, Andy, you already brought it up. These next 2 weeks are going to be huge, especially as far as the postseason picture for these guys. As coaches, I mean, do you end up stressing games like this more than you do others? I mean, how do you really approach that?
Try not to.
You try not to. I mean, I get tore up over whoever we're playing. It doesn't. I mean, you got your rival games.
He's
you have
not
big
lying.
games.
He does get tore up.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you don't take anybody for granted. You try to focus on what's in front of you right there and try not to get ahead of yourself. So. It's easier said than done. I mean, you can't say you don't think of maybe that opponent you have coming up a couple of weeks down the road, but honestly, you just try to stay grounded and focus on what's in front of you that one game, and that's your next step. And try to stay focused, try to keep your players focused as well. It's difficult sometimes, but, I try to approach each game the same, honestly. I mean,
I've said this for years. The thing that I'm envious most of with football is the regimented schedule. Because unlike basketball you can't predict. I mean, week to week, it could be vastly different. Football, you can predict it from 5 years out. This is what we're going to do on June the 3rd. This is what we're going to do on August the 26th. Like, you can look at a calendar and you know exactly what you're doing. So from that standpoint, I think it is easier because it is so routine hardened that they just stay within their routine and they go about what they do just like it's any other week. Now, your kids are not dumb. They know it's not any other week.
Right. Yeah.
And I think trying to ignore that, probably not the smartest thing in the world to do, but I think you frame it in the sense of, listen, this is why you do this. This is why you come out here and you go through summer and you go through training camp and you play football at Jefferson County to play in games like this.
Exactly.
So, embrace it. Put in the work, and when our kids start I wish it was, if we have a game on Friday, whether it's a big district game, I wish it was just Friday. Embrace the anticipation. That's something that goes along. The anticipation is fun. Preparing for that is fun. Marking the days off the calendar to get to a certain game when you've done the right thing on that day is fun. So. Kind of embrace that anticipation and do the right things leading up to game time.
Well, and last year, this was a Science Hill team. They lost some key pieces off of this team, but they're Science Hill. Like you guys said, they're the only school in the city. They're a 6A school that relies on mostly Johnson City kids. Whereas, Jefferson County is also a 6A school, but it takes everybody in the county to put it in that. And that's always been something that's interesting to me. But, they are a team that they can reload with talent. And, by all means, it looks like that they have. But, this is a team that last year Jeff County, by all rights, probably could have beaten. You look at the scoreboard and say 21-7, how do you figure that out? But that doesn't take into consideration that you fumble the ball on the goal line one drive. Had another drive that was on its way in to score. That also resulted in a turnover. So, you're talking about a minimum 14 to 28-point swing right there.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the game that we played on fall break last year? See, that whole game to me just fell off. We were at home, and there was no energy in the stadium with it being fall break. We did, there were some key pieces not here that night for that game. Fall break. All the students, all our kids weren't here, a big chunk of them. So that night just felt off to me as a fan, even standing over there on the sideline the whole night.
Well, it was tough because your two biggest region games last year, Science Hill was on fall break, Dobbins-Bennett was your homecoming game. I don't have to tell you guys, homecoming, how mindsets can get shifted with everything going on throughout the week and all that stuff as well.
Well, it's kind of like similar to our senior night, I feel like, or something like that for basketball. But yeah, absolutely. What were you going to say on that fall break game last year, Coach?
Well, it seemed like that we played a large majority of the first half of the game on their side of the 50 and didn't get much for it.
Yeah.
And as far as the homecoming deal, as a coach, you look for any type of edge. I'm sure Dobbins-Bennett's coaching staff repeatedly told them they picked you guys for homecoming.
Yeah.
You're their homecoming game.
Yeah.
So
when in reality, it wasn't necessarily a pick. It's just we got to put it somewhere.
But as a coach, you play on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you play like for us, we have the last district game as senior night. We don't do the last home game, and it's because of weather. We know that game has to be played. But, I'm sure if you're Morristown West or Morristown East on the other side of that, and you look at it like they picked to have their senior night a month ahead of their last home game because they want to do it again. You use anything that you can that you can kind of grab at and for a second or two of motivation in practice or something like that. It's not going to, at the end of the day, it's not going to make a difference in the outcome of the game. But, if you need a second or two of focus, it can buy that, which can have an impact. But I think Good news is we've played on the road. We've had some things go against us, so it won't be like it's the first time that we're playing a road game this year. It won't be the first road game for young quarterback, which is good. So I think big importance on a good week of practice, and go build on the things that you started to do well last week.
Well, and continuing on the defensive side of things, you've already seen a very talented group, in my opinion, that Oak Ridge had. And I mean, granted, the scoreboard's going to say 30-13 at the end of the day, but like we talked about, not a single offensive drive that they had resulted in a touchdown that had to cross the 50. All of them came with short fields. So I think that this is going to be another good test for the defense, because this, by all means, this is a Science Hill team that seemed to have found its footing last week. I think Jeff County and Science Hill both have some similarities in how they're going to enter this week, because the first week they took some pretty tough losses that maybe they didn't expect. Second week, they both bounced back. So I think this sets up as a really good Week 3 matchup and star-studded matchup for region opener for sure.
Well, we knew coming in, we talked about it on episode 1, but just talking with the coaching staff too, knew we were going to be battle-tested these first several games of ours. And I didn't mention it earlier. Just I was proud of our team, just how they bounced back from that Week 1, going on the road. We had talked about this.
They
already.
didn't look like a team that had lost.
No, and that, kudos to the coaching staff for getting them refocused for the week and focus on that next game being Sevier County. So I was really excited just to come back Friday night and see the bounce back that we had and the fire that we had in us as a team. So I think that speaks very highly of the coaching staff and our boys out there on the field. I mean, they, like you said, you wouldn't have known that we'd had the struggles that we did the week before. I thought they tuned up a lot of things out on the field. Just overall, you mentioned we talked about the running backs, but even special teams and our offensive line, I felt like got better pushes this past Friday night, obviously, to get our running
that's
backs.
one thing I wanted to say. Back whenever I played football, the old saying was make a hole big enough for a Mack truck to drive through. Mm-hmm. Being practical and real, I don't think that those holes were big enough for a Mack truck to drive through, but I feel confident that my wife's Trailblazer could have gotten through them unscathed. I mean, it was just an absolute beating.
Yeah. Well, it was a fun game to be a part of, just watching it from the fans' point of view. And like I said, the crowd that we had and just the support for the football team, that was great to see Friday night here in the Valley.
All right, let's move on to soccer. A little bit of an up and down start to the year. Got a couple of wins last week. Got a win at Knox Halls. Molly Ketterman hits the only goal in the 59th minute to push them ahead for the victory. But first week of the season, bit of a rough one. Bo, I'm going to frame this one for you. If I told you that you're going to start your basketball season and you're going to be without Maddie Hogg, you're going to be without Brooke Satterfield, and I don't know, one of your best on-ball defenders that's not either one of them. How you feeling about the start of the season?
Well, we face those challenges every day, every year as a coach, and that's why you put in, you're hoping that your players put in the work during the off season, and you've been practicing hard with, like in our case, I have 22 other players besides whoever those three are that you have to say, hey, next girl up in those situations. You hate to see any of your players hurt, but that is unfortunately part of our game. And we went through those injuries last year as a basketball team. Mm-hmm. I had my starting point guard out. We lost Sydney Dockery in the first few games of the season. We missed, and Briley Lindsay a little bit later in the season. We missed those players tremendously. Sydney and Briley in the paint, didn't have those girls to beat and bang up against East post play against Ella or Sevier County, their post players. We didn't have that. We missed that all year. Now, it worked out for us at the end of the year. Caught a good run there at the end, but unfortunately that's part of the game. And I know our soccer team here, they have certainly had their challenges here to start out with as far as those injuries go. And I know Taryn, she was out a little bit with a concussion, I think, there for a week or two. So she's back now, right? So glad to see that. But yeah, I hate the injuries. I hate it for any team. I hate to see that for any program.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I mean, just to full on address it. I mean, Sean Way starts out the year. I felt so bad for him. I mean, talked to him literally a week before the season started and asked him because I, you know, like I told you guys when we talked in the first episode, he said if we stay healthy, this is what we can do. And I asked him. I said, "Still healthy?" He said, "Yep, still healthy. Got one scrimmage to go, and you know, we'll start the season."
Mm-hmm.
Come to take team pictures. Searly's in a boot. They go through their next scrimmage. Evie's got a concussion. So there goes your two leading scorers before you get to the first match of the year. And that first week was definitely, I think, a tough one. But I think, you know, they lost 2-0 to Dobbins Bennett in their second match of the year. And that's by all means, that's a team that they could see in the first round of the region tournament. It was a team that they saw last year. And they were still competitive with them, even without their two leading scorers and one of their top defenders. On top of that, they still have other contributors out, other girls that they like to play and rotate in. I mean, I think in total we were talking 6 girls that were missing through that first week of the season.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, of course you got 11 on the pitch, but that's tough to go through.
Brutal.
Yeah, so the fact that they were able to be competitive, I think that that's a good sign for what the postseason can be. Again, with that caveat, if they can stay healthy.
Sure, yeah. You just sometimes you have seasons like that where you see so many injuries. You think you're going to be all right and you're healthy, and then bang, you know, one play later you have somebody out. So I hate it for Coach Way and the girls, but you know, they have picked up a couple of wins since those injuries. I mean, so those other players are getting those minutes and experience out on the floor or out on the field. So hopefully by the end of the season, you know, that's going to pay dividends for our soccer team.
Well, and 5 matches into the season, it's kind of interesting. Their 2 wins are clean sheets. Their 3 losses are clean sheets. You got a 0 on one side of the board or the other. Kind of a Jekyll and Hyde thing, I guess, it's going on for them right now.
I have been there, and that is so frustrating as a coach because you don't know which group you're going to get out there that day. So that can be frustrating, certainly. But I did see, I mean, Natalie's playing out of her mind, though. What 57 saves in 5 matches. I mean, that's pretty unbelievable. And good for her.
Yeah, well, and in 2 of those, she hasn't played the full 80 minutes either. So I mean, she's doing some incredible work. She, you know, obviously that first week she saw an elevated amount of balls kicked her way, but still, I mean, to be able to play the goal like she has been, that's certainly a good sign. And obviously, it's only going to get better as they continue to get healthy, get back to full form, and you know, if they can stay there, you got to like their chances. This week. Probably as you're listening to this, it could be tonight. They play Sevier County on Tuesday to open up their district, and you know, they haven't lost a district match since 2021, I believe, maybe even before that. Didn't lose one all of last year and absolutely dominated the league. So you know, how important is it going to be to continue that streak and getting off to a good start on Tuesday night?
Well, I'm putting my money on Coach Way. You know, he's a veteran coach. He has seen it all through these almost couple of decades that he's been here on campus in the Valley. So, you know, that is added pressure, I guess, if you look at that. If you say, you know, you start hearing those stats that you haven't lost in a year or two at district play. So, you know, I don't Coach Way's so level-headed, and those things aren't going to get to him. And I'm sure his players, he's not going to, if he's not showing a lot of emotion toward that, then, you know, they're going to feed off of him. So I'm sure that's not even in their head, honestly.
Andy, how do you handle pressure like that whenever you've got such a big winning streak against like opponents going on like that?
I think that, you know, I mean, staying in your routine is important. Just continue to go back and do the things that that you've done to get you to that point. You know, don't. Again, human nature says otherwise, and kids are going to notice. You know, they're going to know what the record is. But kids also do a good job of living in the moment, even if it's vice versa and you've lost a couple in a row. You know, they bounce back and are resilient, and I you know, I think they do a good job of kind of living in the moment and being where they are in the present. So as long as you stick to what got you to that level of success and try to keep going back every day and continuing to do those habits, then the results will hopefully continue to be in your favor. And I mean, realistically, basketball is this way. Football, you get so few chances. You work for, I mean, the most games that they can play is 15, 16. I can't remember how many
That
weeks.
I don't know for certain.
But I'm trying, I mean, I think it's like if you go play in the state championship game, I can't remember exactly how many weeks the playoffs are, but I mean, they play 10 regular season and then five or six in the postseason. But with the majority of our sports, they're postseason sports. So, a couple injuries early on, a couple losses early on. Maybe those injuries. You don't want to see anybody get hurt, but maybe those injuries allow you to build some depth that helps you moving forward. Maybe some of those losses are a stepping stone or a learning. You can use that to go back and learn. And once you get to that position in the postseason, you're playing that same team. Maybe your kids have the chip on their shoulder. So I do think that fighting or long-term success is hard to sustain because it's a lot easier to get to the top of the mountain than it is to stay there. Because once you get there, everybody else is chasing you. So staying in that routine and continuing to build the habits that got you there is probably the most important thing to continue the success.
When you've dealt with a similar situation in your time at Central, I know that you would have some football guys that wouldn't be able to join the basketball team until a little bit later in the season. So with the kind of situation that Coach Way's group had to deal with, losing a couple of girls in the first week and now getting reintroduced back into the lineup, what kind of challenge is that? And I mean, how do you go throughout, I guess, that adaptation process? From a basketball standpoint, these are all experienced players, so they know from a schematic standpoint. It's not like they're missing practice time right now, but they're experienced players, so they have a good knowledge and a good understanding of what they're doing schematically. So that way, when they are healthy, you can plug them back in and play them. That's where for basketball coaches, the month of June is extremely important for us with a lot of multi-sport guys, especially football, because you don't want to bring them back if you're getting them back in December like I was at Central when we were winning state titles. Those guys don't want to come in and sit on the bench for 2 or 3 weeks while they're trying to catch up. You want to have kind of your base of what you're doing offensively and your base of what you're doing defensively covered in the summer, so that when you do get those guys back or girls back from whatever. You can go ahead and get them back in the lineup and get them playing, because it's the good thing about it is these are experienced kids, so they do have an understanding of what they're doing from a scheme standpoint. So once they get healthy, they'll be able to return pretty seamlessly. Like I said, Jeff County going on the road to Sevier County to start their district schedule. Obviously, 3 district opponents: Sevier County, Morristown East, and Morristown West. Looking for a three-peat in the district this year, and that gets started on Tuesday night. Let's shift over to volleyball, guys. We talked. They've got a first-year head coach, Paige Kyle, taking over the program. Got her first win in her first match. Since then, though, a couple of district losses. Any thoughts on your all's view of the volleyball program so far?
Well, I think that probably the best thing to do is look at her quote right here. She knows her team better than we do, and looking at what she has to say about her girls, she's 100% correct. Mindset is hard to coach, and it doesn't change overnight. You want it to, but it doesn't. Right. It has to be sustained. I talked a minute ago about your habits. At the end of the day, you are your habits. Nobody rises to the occasion. That's the biggest fib in sports. Nobody lifts their game up. No, that's who they are all the time. You don't rise to the occasion. You sink to the level of your training. Whatever your habits are every day, that's who you are. That's why I'm. when you talk about clutch players, that's why Michael Jordan's always brought up, or Kobe Bryant, or people, But that's they work so hard; they constantly put themselves in that moment. So, from Coach Kyle's standpoint, she's 100% correct when she says you can work on skills and specific plays, but trying to instill a mindset during the season is extremely hard to do. Because ultimately, if you've got a young group, they're gonna sink to the level of their habits, and changing those habits only happens over time.
Well, and for full context here, Andy's talking about her quote. It's from her from Jeff County's last match as a 3-0 loss to Cott County, and she said, "Our mindsets need work. One mistake and we're done. It's not a talent issue, it's a mindset, and that's the hardest thing to fix as a coach. We can work on skills, drills for specific plays and all that, but you cannot train a mindset when they're on the court. I think that's what's holding them back." And of course, that comes after a tough week. I mean, you go to Sevier County, you're 1-1 through 2 sets. Sevier County ends up edging out the third set, and then after that, I just, like she said, one mistake turned into several mistakes. It just snowballed. End up losing that match 3-1. And then against Cott County, same thing. I think they led early in every single set, but then Cott County would pull ahead and would end up putting it away. I mean, that's obviously got to be tough to go through as a coach.
That's hard. I mean, and like Coach Hill said, she obviously knows her team 100% better than what we do. But as a coach, I'm just thinking of basketball and the experiences that we've had on this side. When you have those top scenarios or seasons, you really hope that your leadership rises up within the team, your players. And I know she has some really good seniors on that team and a couple of juniors that I hope that can maybe bring that team together and find that gel that they need as far as that goes. I know she's playing some younger girls. This is a big freshman class we have coming in, just in other sports as well, not just volleyball. I know we're going to have around 10 freshmen on the basketball team for the girls. And then I have 7 seniors. So, there's got to be a mix there. There's got to be some team bonding, team building, top scenarios within the team. I'm not talking about Coach Kyle. I'm talking about the players themselves. Sometimes they have to step up and be leaders on the team to help bring that team together.
Well, you mentioned freshmen, and they've got one that certainly stands out. Arian Blaze. Please tell me you've recruited her for basketball.
I've tried. I got shut down. I met her, so we did our school physicals. And when all the athletes came over to the Patriot Academy one day and we were doing the physicals, and I saw her come in, I think I mentioned to Coach Hill, I was like, all right, who is this freshman coming in here? So we went to find out, and her mom, I think, was with her. So I went right up to them as soon as I saw her and said, "Hey, you here for basketball physical?" And they just kind of looked at me and smiled and said, "No, we're just volleyball." So, so she's just volleyball, apparently.
That's unfortunate. She's done incredible so far on the volleyball court. I mean, certainly stands out. And then you learn that she's a freshman, and it does not look like a freshman, not in her stature or the way that she plays.
Well, and I'm sure Coach Kyle's getting the most out of her that she can with her being a freshman. And, Coach Kyle does a great job. And her quote here have both of you have mentioned is spot on. I mean, it really is. You do all you can, and it can be frustrating as a coach because you see what they're capable of doing.
How do you even go about addressing it? I mean, you've both been doing this for a long time. You especially. How do you even go about addressing that or even trying to fix it? How in the world do you fix that mindset?
Different ways. I mean, different approaches. Depends on the player. You have to know your players. You have to know how you can approach them. You can get on some a lot harder than you can others. It might look different for each player, but it's going to be fair. But I mean, you might bring them in with the coaching staff and just have a conversation with them, or you might pull them to the side during a practice. Hey, that's a great shot right there. Just try to maybe build their confidence up a little bit. Throw a positive or two at them before you go the route of what's bothering you. Try to figure out what they're doing right at that moment. That's one way, but
Teams that I've been around or coached that have splintered apart in tough moments, or when something goes against them, the key word is apart, and they become very inward. Head goes down. Nobody talks to each other, and that's going back to what Coach Lewis. That means you've got a leadership vacuum. You have an absence of leadership, and I think leadership is a word that gets said a lot in sports, and nobody really understands what it means. But I think too many times when we think of a leader in sports, we think of a tyrant. That's not at the high school level. These are peers. They're not going to, unless you are an absolute stud, and unless you do like if Tim Tebow was here, then he could be a tyrant and people would listen to him. But just regular, player A to player B to player C. You can have good leaders, but it's not about pointing fingers and pointing out the mistakes of others. A lot of times it's about pointing the thumb and asking, how much are you giving? And then once you get to the point where you're individually accountable to yourself and to the standard of the team and what your coaches are asking you to do, then how many people are you bringing along with you on that journey?
Yeah.
And that's where you talk about changing a mindset. Mm-hmm. That's how you do it. It starts with one kid, and then you continue to challenge them to bring others along with them. And then ultimately, because volleyball has being in the gym for volleyball, when a team gets rolling and those girls start screaming, they just start doing their, secret handshakes and chants. Yeah. It's just like basketball, it's a very momentum, it can get rolling on you in the wrong direction and really quick. And if you don't have kids out there on the floor that are gritty and resilient and together, then it could get spiraling out of control in a hurry.
Coach made a great point there. That's a tough challenge sometimes if you have this scenario that you've mentioned that you brought up, and we have conversations about this all the time with the team, because you're right with the leadership thing. Sometimes you hear that word and one of your older girls might think that gives them permission just to yell at their teammates in the locker room or just blast them. No, that's not what we mean. That's our job if that needs to be done. And we tell our kids, or I tell them, I've told my teams for years, if you're pointing your finger at somebody or your teammate, you've got three pointing back at you. So let's make sure you're in order first before you start putting the blame over there on your teammates. So it's a daily challenge. It's a daily conversation. I mean, with your team, and just making sure they know what your expectations are and the standards of your program. And I know this guy, I've known him his whole life, and I know that he has his standards and expectations, and we talk about this every year. I look at his handbook every year that he's had. And by the way, you ought to look at that handbook he's put forth, that I've taken a lot from him on that handbook. But I mean, it's all laid out right there. There's standards and expectations. But it is that's a very difficult scenario if you don't have a vocal leader, or second, if you have your leader that's not really leading the right way. They're not doing that.
Best form of leadership is by giving. What are you doing to serve your team? How much are you giving to your team? And then, if your house is in order, like Coach said, and you are, it's not about pointing fingers at others. It's about what more can I do? What more can I do? And if you can build a culture of that type of individual accountability, then you'll start to see the people that don't fit in with that will be so uncomfortable that they won't last very long within the walls of your program. And that's kind of what you want. Is you want it to be so far from the quote unquote disease of me, or that head down, shoulder slumped environment, that you want your culture to envelop that and just change it, from seniors on down, to where ultimately the people that are not, leading by giving and serving are so uncomfortable that they either get with the program or, sometimes have to go on and maybe do something else.
And this isn't even saying they're going through these problems. I don't
No.
know. I mean, I'm just going off the quote that you had with Coach Kyle. They might have just lost 2 tough matches. I mean, that happens too. You know, you might have just lost. You need to learn from it and move on and go get the next one. But just talking about leadership and
Sure.
you know, on that realm of things, I mean, it's a daily challenge. And you know, from my experiences, I'm not sure if Coach Kyle's feeling this with her quote talking about mindset. You start questioning, okay, what else can I do? What else do I need to do? What am I doing everything? Just like Coach said, what are you doing to help the team? You were also asking yourself that as a coach. I mean, it starts from the top. So, and then hopefully you have those players that are willing to be a sponge and listen and hopefully learn and form a bond with the team that helps you in the long run.
Well, and of course, Andy mentioned this whenever we were talking about soccer. By all means, it's a postseason sport. Everybody's guaranteed to make the district tournament, and that gives you your chance to advance to the region and so on and so forth. And I mean, I don't think that there was any better example than what you guys did last year.
Right.
Finished last in the district, roll into the district tournament, and knock off a Sevier County team that had been untouched the entire year, and then go on to beat Morristown West to win the district tournament.
Right.
And of course, I end up writing an article that I think a headline that Bean still may want to kill me about, that never saw the light of day. Nonetheless, I mean, those things can happen. And I think that it would be naive. I mean, you know, you got a first-year coach and you've got a mix of a young team. You're going to have problems. I mean, I know that both of you guys went through your own struggles. Lord, you look at Nick Saban's first year at Alabama. He had a home loss to Louisiana Monroe and went 7-6. I think he turned out to be okay. You know,
Well, look, we're talking about the volleyball team. I have those same challenges ahead of me right now. I have 7 seniors and 10 freshmen,
Right.
2 juniors and 4 or 5 sophomores at the moment. So you have a bunch of seniors, a bunch of freshmen. You have to. I've been working on trying to team bonding things as we speak, and it's hard. I mean, it's tough, especially when you have a group of underclassmen, freshmen, sophomores that could see some significant minutes possibly.
but that's the good thing about this situation. I mean, do you want to be losing right now? Do you want to be going through these challenges right now? No, but go through them now versus October, whenever the postseason starts. Because, I mean, and I know that no coach would ever want this, and certainly no player would ever want it. You can lose every game in the regular season and still go play for a state championship.
You can, yes, and that you're right. No coach wants that.
No,
It is,
nobody
that's
does.
realistic, though. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a reality that could take place. You're right. So, you know, a lot of matches still be played, and we have some really good volleyball players on our team. So they'll get it together after these 2 losses they've had, and they're on the road today actually at South Green, I believe. So hopefully
Yes.
they get that bounce back match today.
I think that a lot of what Coach Lewis and I are trying to say is that we can certainly empathize with what is going on.
Absolutely.
We've been there. You know, we're not assuming anything about, because we don't know the inner workings of their program. But you know, it's as head coaches, you've been there, and you know you kind of have an understanding of what might be going on. And you know, I think for us, it's an extremely hard job. So I mean, when you look at it from the outside looking in, they're doing the right things. She's working those kids, and they're gonna have success in the long run.
Yes.
I agree. Guys, let's move on to golf. Doing just fine right now. Emily Royston picked up where she left off last year. She's already had the medalist round 3 times. Girls have won all 4 matches that they've had competition in. And the boys aren't doing so bad themselves. Got a couple of wins under their belt, shooting some competitive rounds. I think Bryson Jurek has got a lot to be happy about right now.
3 consecutive rounds as a medalist. That's extremely impressive. you continue that, and you'll have a pretty good shot to make some noise in the postseason. Not just as an individual, but with our team. It looks like on the girls' side, they're going to have a chance to finish off the year strong and go into the postseason with some momentum. On the boys' side, very impressive outing with an even par 36 for Brody Jones. That's when you get guys around. If you can get basically to compete at the district level right now, you need probably 3 of those guys. If you can get that to go ahead and compete at the region level, you need 5. But that's very encouraging to see an even par round. Hopefully we can continue that momentum and because golf is they've got the classifications. You've either got the short or the long season, and it can be abrupt. So I think the district tournament's probably 3 weeks away. Maybe.
I mean, it's not far.
So right now you want to be playing as well as you possibly can heading into the last few weeks before you start your tournament play.
When Brody shoots that 36 on the same day that the boys shoot a 160 as a team, you got 4 guys that totaled 160, and Bryson noted that he can't think, since he's been there, he can't think of a time that the boys have broken 160. So obviously making progress in the right direction, but also the fact that they did it at Patriot Hills. I mean, you have to expect to play your best on the course that you're practicing at day in and day out, right?
For sure. I mean, you definitely, that's golf as a team sport. It definitely has the biggest home field advantage because there's more variability out there. It's not like in Hoosiers where they can step out there and say, well, the rims are still 10 feet high and the floor's not. No, you can't say that in golf. I mean, Smoky Mountain Golf Course is a lot different than Patriot Hills. Sevierville Golf Club is a lot different than Patriot Hills. So, you're going to play your best at home because that's the course you go play all the time, for sure.
Well, in that same day, I mean, they played everybody that's left in the IMAC. It's an abbreviated conference now, only 4 teams, but still to be able to outshoot Morristown East and Sevier County, and then only finish 6 strokes behind Morristown West, which so far, I think what they said, they're playing 3 times throughout the regular season to help determine, and then they're going to take averages to determine the all IMAC team, which I think is not a bad idea, rather than making it a 1-match shoot-off. But so you're going to get some familiarity with these guys. But so far, Morristown West has been the top in each one of those matches. So to be able to gain ground on those guys, I think that's a huge plus.
Going back to the day when Brody fired the 36, and us shooting 160 as a team. I mean that's a scoring average of 40, which is. We'll have an opportunity at the district level to compete if you can just lower. If you could get that, if you could get it down to about a 37 or 38 average, and then turn that into an 18-holer, you would feel pretty good about your chances of winning the district. But that's certainly impressive. To see, and you'd like to be able to build on that going toward the postseason.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that you got an average that you want to be around. What is the difference in shooting a 41, 42 consistently, and then finally, starting to break 40 on a consistent basis?
For a guy like Cole Osborne, who kind of hangs out in that 42 to every now and then break 40, but wants to consistently get under that so you can get to that scoring average where you feel like you can go compete for a district tournament. I mean, realistically, it's probably shots around the green. being able to being able to turn 3 into 2, being able to get the ball up and down. It's not necessarily about making more birdies. Guys that guys that go out and regularly break par don't make a ton of birdies. They just don't make double bogeys. They don't make a lot of bogeys, and they give themselves a lot of opportunities to make birdies. So probably starting off with shots around the greens and maybe cleaning some of that up. And then, getting rid of 3 putts. One of the things that correlates with scoring average the most is greens and regulation. How many greens are you hitting per 9 holes or per 18 holes? If you go back and look at Tiger's best years, his greens and regulation percentage was always number 1 on tour. So, I mentioned being able to get the ball up and down more often and save strokes that way. The more times you hit the green in regulation, the less times you have to worry about getting the ball up and down. So the more opportunities you're giving yourself to make birdies, that's probably the biggest difference in being able to get to that stroke average that Cole would like to get to.
And that's even if you have to settle for a lag putt, 2 putt, 3 putt. I mean,
Sure.
You still got to consider it a net gain.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going out there and that goes back kind of what I said in the first podcast was, you want to be aggressive to the spot that you're trying to hit it to, but if you're playing to a bunch of tucked pins and trying to hit it to places on the course where it's you're short siding yourself, it's hard to get the ball up and down. Then yeah, you would be much better off hitting it 25 feet right of the flag, giving yourself an opportunity to make birdie, but at worst you're gonna 2-putt and move on.
Guys, we'll close this episode with cross country. We talked pretty in depth about Bill Delosier and the success that he's had just in now his 3rd year with that program, and just based on their first meet, they've only had 1 meet so far. They went to North Carolina for the Pioneer Clash of the Classes, a fairly unique event. They got separated by class for each race instead of just having a boys run and a girls run. And of course, his trio of juniors, Connor Hodgson, Gage Slagle, and Gavin Slagle, another great job. All of them in the top 5 of their class on the boys' side, and signs certainly seem to indicate that they are well on their way to another trip to Middle Tennessee.
I have Gage and Gavin in class. They're extremely competitive.
Are they competitive with just each other?
They're competitive with the table. They're fiery. You can tell they're very soft spoken, but kind of once you dig at them and kind of get to know them a little bit, they have a mean competitive streak. I wouldn't want to be on the back side of the cross country course with them and maybe we're jostling for position. I think that they would get the better of you and I'm sure they're competitive with each other, but if it came right down to it, I wouldn't want to be the odd man out with them 2 running beside each other and I'm wearing a different uniform. I'll say that.
Think you're going to have some sore ribs?
Yeah, I feel like you're not going to come out of there good. You're going to be the cross country guy in the training room.
But what are some of your thoughts on their? Like I said, we've only got 1 meet to go off of, but still, I think that the biggest thing is you're seeing. It's not just those guys. I mean, the whole team had a fairly good event. So obviously, being able to see that they're pretty much continuing what they did last year, it doesn't seem like they've missed a beat.
Not surprised with Coach Delosier. I mean, he's down there daily working with them. You see them running around campus here each day on certain days, or they might be just on the track doing some technique work. And I went to Coach Delosier a couple of weeks back and asked him if he would work with our girls just on some running things with our program. And of course, he's all about any Patriot program on campus, so he didn't hesitate to say yes. And we had them in there that next week out there on the track, and he was showing them some things, and doing a little training with the basketball team. So, not surprised with the cross country. Just like we will not be surprised come spring when we're talking about the track and how successful those athletes are. So, can't wait to see how our cross country team finishes up the season.
Well, and he actually mentioned that to me. I talked to him at one point last week, and he was talking about how he helped some of the basketball girls, and even noted that for him that was a good recruiting opportunity because he was able to present to them, hey, here's the difference in staying step by step with a girl and getting beat by one step or two steps.
Well, I had just in that one day, I had 4 or 5 girls that I talked to about running track or, getting down there with Coach DeLozier, Miley Parker being one of them, one of my freshmen, very talented young lady. So just seeing her and a couple of her other teammates down there, I thought, man, that obviously it would do nothing but benefit us as well if they're running track.
Well, that's free off-season conditioning for you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they're not going to get a better workout than what they would down there on the track with Coach DeLozier and his coaching staff.
When I'd probably trust just about any athlete with him, I think that they all end up in good hands.
Absolutely.
Over there.
Well, just in that first day we were down there, a couple of our girls, Caroline Loveday being one of our seniors, I mean, they picked up some tips on just running technique and how that will benefit them on the court. So very beneficial for us. I mean, we are going to go back with him again this week. So that's a positive when we can all work together on the campus and have somebody like Coach DeLozier that can help them more than what I can in regards to being down there on the track and running and getting something out of it.
Hopefully a little less humidity this time.
Well, we didn't get to work with him last week because of
because of
the
that
scenario.
Yeah,
because he brought his in. I think it was 6:30, 7 o'clock last week to work out. So we had already been in the gym and got out of here by then. But yeah,
guys, you got anything else to add before we cut off this episode?
looking forward to the next one to see how much improvement we've made and gained just with our programs.
Andy, you gonna listen to yourself this time?
I don't know. I have a cold, so it's probably even worse. Probably sound like a bigger moron.
All right, guys. I appreciate your
Thanks
time.
to the people. I had a lot of people that listened that mentioned they listened. Thank you.
Yes.
It's a fun thing to do, and hopefully, we don't want you to just have to listen to me and Coach Lewis. We're going to get some different people on here and get some student athletes and
We'll get some students, some
so you just
some
don't
other
get
coaches.
bored listening to us.
Right. Well, at any time, I went to a breakfast Saturday where I was able to go over and talk about our basketball program, the Lady Patriots. And so I mentioned over there, anytime we get an opportunity to talk about our athletes and our campus and brag on the positives that go on here at Jefferson County High School, then absolutely we'll do it anytime, anywhere, because a lot of times you only hear negatives.
Yep.
You know, that's the first thing people want to be negative. People are just negative for whatever reason. And, we want to bring positivity because, to me personally, you're not going to see a much prettier campus driving by than what we have here with our athletic programs and the building itself.
I think I can speak for Coach Lewis when I say that we both been here and gone other places and have done the same job that we're doing right now, and but it doesn't get much better.
It doesn't.
Dumpling Valley.
It doesn't.
I'm proud to be a Patriot.
One of the first things we talked about, and we might have mentioned this already in one of the podcasts or in the paper, talked about just how clean our campus is. I mean, you go to other schools, check out the gyms or the football stadium or the campus itself, just the school in general. If you walk around the school building, our custodians just do a heck of a job on keeping this place clean, and that makes you proud. I mean, that's something to be proud of. And
Yep.
Anytime you have an opportunity to brag on our leadership, then we're going to do it. And anytime we have an opportunity to brag on our athletes and our kiddos here at Jefferson County, then absolutely, I'm all for this Jeff Co to Go podcast because of that, just to highlight our students here.
One of the things I said earlier in the podcast is those schools that, the Science Hills, the Oak Ridges, the Dobbins Bennett's of the world, they make it very important for those kids, and they understand the importance. And that's one of the reasons why Coach Lewis and I want to be a part of anything that we can, is because our kids need to understand that it's important. And
Yep.
people look, it is important here.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a podcast on that stuff and not even have to talk about certain teams. We could talk about the campus in general, and what all good things we have going on here, and not just in the athletic department. I mean, just our band, our performing arts program that we have here. I mean, just all the things that we were involved with last year, and things we were able to get our players to go attend, and it's unbelievable, all the things that we have going on here. Just so many positives. I mean, it's real easy for people to get on social media and be negative about whatever they want to be negative about, but we have so many positives going on here, and we love it.
Guys, I think that's good. Everyone, till next time, from the Patriot Room, as Bo would want me to tell you, I'm Dennis Barker Jr., signing off with Bo Lewis and Andy Hill. We'll talk to you next time.
Go Patriots.